As if this triplicate family were not enough, my father had 4 brothers and my mother had 4 sisters, all of whom lived locally. This band of aunts and uncles and my father's centenarian mother only added to the tightness of the community. And I've written about them elsewhere. But then add altar boy to this mix and you have the foundation for great self-confidence. You insinuated yourself between the nuns and the priest. And that was the big thing about being an altar boy. Well, anyway, adding altar boys to this mix and you have the foundation for great self-confidence, if not a real ego problem. The very essence of these wonderful stories they told were the foundation of the sense of history that must intertwine with the acquisition of a sense of place and more. And then a little digression into environmental impact. In my childhood, trips to nearby cities were rare. We came to Champaign once a month, once every 2 months. We had all we needed. My father was a village businessman. He walked to work. Aside from a vacation once a year, the car moved less than 1,000 miles in a given year. Today, the average U.S. car moves 12,000 miles, and there are about 2 cars to every household. Today, the sustainable activity of the average person on Earth would release about 1 metric ton of carbon per year. The actual use in the developed world is about 1 metric ton per day. So we are off by, on the average, 365. But consider this 1 ton per year as one's fair sustainable share. 1 international round-trip flight issues 1/4 metric ton of carbon. Nearly all of one's annual sustainable fair share. Traveling accounts for roughly 60% of our total carbon releases today. Another 30% is released by home heating and cooling. But back in my little town, home was heated by coal and we had no air conditioning. The path back to a sustainable state is a long one, centered again on the use of the sun. Queen Yoda was right in ways she never dreamed. So by the late 1950s, there was a long period that I summarize here of agricultural depression in the 20s, worldwide depression as well as the US in the 30s, war through the 40s, and then the transformation of many of the war technologies to producing a variety of things like nitrogen fertilizers out of munition plants. Changed the landscape considerably, and the drainage districts locally began to have enough money now as people's income increased, began to have enough money to start dredging the ditches and dredging the streams that they had once dredged before. Over that long period, the teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the trees had grown up along these creeks and provided the kind of local nature for me and my brother. We were in it all the time. And then by the 50s, when the drainage districts were reorganized again, all hell broke loose. By the late 1950s, though, major forces began changing this landscape. The local drainage district cut all the trees along the ditch, dredged it to an even larger size, and sprayed the banks with herbicides annually, and that has prevented further tree growth ever since. The munitions industry, as I mentioned, converted to ag fertilizer production after the war. The use of these fertilizers across the Corn Belt had an enormous impact. Corn yields soared, the price plummeted. The only way to stay in farming was by increasing farm size, a process encouraged by government support programs that are still underway. Growing farm size meant fewer people were needed on the land. And of course that had a major impact on the activities in all the small towns across the nation in the farming regions. These sudden changes in my given landscape were the tipping point in my life. They turned me into an environmentalist, although the real force that finally pushed me into action had to wait until the 1960s. So I go on to say that living in such a small town, which I described in detail, gave me a strong sense of system. In a town that size, about 300 to 400 people, you could see all the decisions that were made, and you understood why, you understood the politics innately, and of course it was an Irish community, so volubility was one of their Great aspects, yes. So, environmental action at last, and I'll even have to summarize this part, but by 1967, I had finished 9 years as an engineer with the local petrochemical company. I had a master's degree in engineering, working on a PhD, and teaching full-time in engineering. Our family with 4 children would vacation at the university's family camp at Allerton Park due to the restricted salary. And during a tour of the park, my wife learned that a proposed Corps of Engineers downstream Decatur threatened the park, would have flooded Allerton Park, would have destroyed it. At her urging, in that year, and still an engineering graduate student, I formed the Committee on Allerton Park. It's now the Prairie Rivers Network, as Eric mentioned earlier in this session. And we struggled with the Corps of Engineers for 8 years before they gave up. I was also an officer in the Corps of Engineers and understood these people pretty well. Even the university favored the Corps' proposal at first, and we had to sue them successfully to bring them to opposition to the project. And this opposition then we repeated across the country hundreds and hundreds of times until the Corps of Engineers finally gave up its entire dam building program around the nation. And one of the failures of this whole enterprise was that we were never able to capture the environmental awareness of all the people that we helped stop dams in their own particular areas. There were literally hundreds of them, 1 in every congressional district at least. And that was the Corps' plan at the time, and it was an actual facilitator of the Department of Defense's budget in general, was this whole process. That's why the Corps is so wedded and embedded in the Department of Defense. Even though they are mainly civilians, they have a small covering of officers. Well, anyway, we did stop dams all across the country, but we're unsuccessful in bringing all these people into the next phase. What is it that you do next? Now, the whole foundation for your reason for environmental activism is gone. What do you do now? And that our plan was to do this, but it was too difficult for us to do. And we weren't that dedicated to doing it all across the country. We talked about it, we talked to these groups about it, we talked about sense of place, but we dissolved back into our local activities. And we transferred all our action then into waste management, trying to drive up the price of landfills. We stopped on probably 10 or 20 landfills in East Central Illinois alone, probably 100 across the state and then in other states as well, and substituted recycling programs for them at the time. So I go on here with a long string of environmental activities, some dealing with the boneyard, only a block from here, some dealing with, well, I'll read the one that I thought was really very interesting because it involved use of students. Very hard group to organize and get focused. But those of you who live here know that the corn soybean processing plant here called Humco Craft at one time sent a really strong odor across the community, and still does to some extent, but nothing like they used to. The local Humco Craft soybean processing plant routinely emitted an odor across Champaign, most properly classed as a stench. The plant routinely burned waste vegetable fats in such a manner that the fats condensed on the sides of nearby homes and businesses, literally ran down the sides of homes. The problem was the furnace that they burned this oil in and the need for proper maintenance at the plant. Contacting the company was absolutely ineffective. I brought the campus student environmental group into process, the one I'd started in 1970 here, Students for Environmental Concerns. They organized the most affected plant area around in the area of the plant, interacted with the residents, developed a petition to the Attorney General. The AG held a hearing in the area and ordered the company to close its furnace and begin a maintenance program on all of its equipment. The odors all but disappeared. This was a fine-grained geographical organization that could be effectively managed with students over a short period of time.